r/askreddit. What is your fuck, I'm outta here moment? At 16, girlfriend and I are wasted at a house party. We're sitting on the floor with our backs against the wall, next to the front door, just people watching. The door flies open and a stream of cold air and cops flows right by us. We just kind of oozed around the corner and out the door. This happened to my wife and she hid in the attic with a guy who wanted to be a policeman when he grew up. She helped him not get arrested. Fast forward 6 years and she gets pulled over for speeding. The cop is the guy she helped hide in the attic. He let her go with no ticket. Nice. In this scenario, just sit there. The cops only go after the people who run high because they're most likely to have contraband. If you just calmly sit there or walk away, they'll usually just let you go. The moment my boss told me that family wasn't as important as my job. Good call. Did they simply say that, or was it expressed in their actions? Friend in middle school was a foster kid. His foster parents were shit, big surprise. Raging alcoholics with foul tempers, and a closet full of loaded guns. Mom pulled a rifle out the closet during an argument. Buddy and I dipped. He went back later to try and get some clothes from his room, only to find the house on fire and surrounded by emergency vehicles. Mom had doused the couch in cooking oil and lit that shit, you know, to scare her husband. Like a normal person. He lived with me for a solid 2 years and now works at Intel, making more money in a month than I do in 6. Damn, you're a really good friend. Are you guys still close at all? Foul tempers. Mad like a turkey. If a job interview has several people scheduled for the same time, and calls them all in at once. We're gonna have, snaps pull stick in half, tryouts. Not me but my father. He was delivering medical supplies to a hospital where there was an employee who was fired on the spot. Turned into a yelling battle where the fired employee started getting violent but ended the yelling match with, "I'll be back in 5 minutes and you better be ready." My dad said he never dropped off supplies, so ducking fast. Oh quack. Then he waddled away, waddle. I found out a person who just started the job and didn't know anything, who I was teaching the job, was paid a lot more than I was. I found out when a competitor called me and offered a job, and I talked later about it with her and said what the offer was and said that it was same pay as I was already getting, but she looked confused and said it was a lot less than her current pay. The job sucked in many ways, but that was the last straw. I accepted the offer from competitor and ended up with a lot better deal. The IT company I worked for as my first job in the industry hired everyone from a temp agency, then made them permanent after 5-6 months if they weren't bad at life. We had been short one technician for 15 months, but they finally hired this 22-year-old guy. Very nice, but he had no experience, and had no education past high school, so they had me training him on copier repair and support from the ground up. 2 months into training him on and off, we are at a BBQ place and the guy and I get to talking about the shit pay. That's when I found out he started out making $3 per hour more than I was making after a raise. Both of us were making under 30k a year, so this is a huge difference. Anyway, I found a new job within a month and moved across the state to live somewhere better. The new guy ended up taking a better paying job 3 weeks after I left because everyone else there shit on him for being one of those damn millennials. I talked to a co-worker there on the regular, and they still haven't managed to replace either one of us. Not entirely the same situation, but I managed a Domino's while in college. I started out as a driver, but my car broke down after about a year on the job. I was a great employee, so they allowed me to work inside the store. Within a month they were training me as a manager. For those not in the know, going from a driver to an insider involves a massive pay cut. I was paid $8 HR plus tips, which averaged out to between $15 to $20 HR. I was paid $8 until I had been a manager for 90 days. After that I was raised to $8.50 HR. During the time I was working there I switched majors from mechanical engineering to biochemistry. At all points I was taking very work-intensive classes. Being an assistant manager at Domino's ended up being a full-time endeavor. As I transitioned into upper division chemistry and biology classes the workload became too much, and I had to make a decision. I decided that unless I was offered a raise, I would quit and live off of loans so I could get out of that college in a reasonable time frame. At this point in time I was making $9.75 HR. I didn't want to screw over my employer, so I gave him several months notice. We were without a GM at that point in time. Kind of hard to keep a GM when you're not willing to pay them more than $12 HR, which meant that the GM duties had been spread out over the AMs. All I wanted was a raise. A little show of appreciation. But I had too much pride to beg for one. I always hit my numbers. Food cost and labor were, with few exceptions, always below target. I navigated projected sales like clockwork. I knew the city map like the back of my hand and sent great doubles and triples. The employees worked hard for me because I treated them well. I was promoted from within, so I knew I had to go about it delicately. My methods worked. All I wanted was a little smidgen of goddamn appreciation. During the conversation I was never offered a raise to stay. So I walked. And I wrapped up my degree in about a year and a half after that. During the 2 years that I worked almost every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night I lost an entire friend group. Eventually I stopped getting invites because the answer was always can't. I'm working tonight. I couldn't go on trips because I couldn't get the time off. I finally had that option. The real kicker? I left at the same time as all of the good drivers. The owner finally realized he needed stable leadership. He promoted one of the AMs to GM and raised him to $17 HR plus benefits. He raised the pay of AMs too. I like to think I helped with that. Pretty much our entire office went out to get drinks because it was our intern's last day. One of my co-workers is very attractive and also has a boyfriend who was out with us. A casual night out with the office turned into everyone getting hammered. At one point, I go up to said co-worker just to shoot the bull for a couple minutes because we are friends. With her boyfriend sitting right next to me, she starts grabbing my arms and attempting to hold my hand, holding direct eye contact with me. Her boyfriend had just gotten back from active duty in the Marines. I noped out of that so hard, because I like my face not being punched. Funny how they'd be mad at you and not the cheating girlfriend. I went to a bar with a friend of mine. She came with another friend and took her boob out and squirted breast milk at me for no reason. I'm a woman. I did not appreciate it. TBF, I'm a guy and wouldn't appreciate it either. Guy I thought I knew pretty well offered me a ride home from a party. I was pretty drunk but mostly high, so I could still think clearly enough. I kept noticing he was only going 5 miles per hour. I told him multiple times, hey, speed up a bit, why are you going so slow? I'm tired and wanna get home. He tried to touch my inner thigh a couple of times and I'd say, hey, jerkface, don't you have a girlfriend eventually, when he kept going slow, taking back roads to spend more time in the car and wouldn't quit trying to advance on me. I literally jumped out of his moving car, going super slow so not that exciting, and called one of my friends that lived close for a ride. Getting invited to a party on PlayStation and finding out they're all kids. And they're all better than you. When I was a senior in high school, I became friends with a classmate and she invited me to her house for her birthday party. I knew she lived in one of the rougher parts of town, which wasn't an issue. I show up at her house and meet her mom, who I'm guessing was about 450 pounds and maybe 5 feet tall. The house was trashed and smelled dirty. My friend didn't say anything about the state of the house or anything, so I just rolled with it. Anyway, there are probably 10 of us at the party and it's time to cut the cake. We all crowd into the dining room and wait for her mom to bring the cake out. All of the sudden we heard her mom yelling in the kitchen. The birthday girl and a couple of us go into the kitchen and the mom proceeds to tell us that a rat or rats had gotten to the cake that was on the table and then said that she could just cut around it. Hell no. I was fucking out of there. Well, me and a few others. The mom ate the cake. AWW, that one is really sad. Tried to go out for a drink with co-workers. Just went to a quieter bar. Sat around and talked. Seemed like my kind of night. About 2 hours and little packets of white started coming out. That was my cue. I was recently talking about this subject with my mother. If I'm in a social setting I may drink, and occasionally I'll smoke a little too. But as soon as the hardcore stuff comes out. Yay, see ya guys later. My mother told me a story of when her and my dad were in the early stages of dating. They went to one of his friend's house for a little party. Like 10 minutes into being there, she noticed how they kept causally sniffing off their hand repeatedly, and how my dad just either didn't react or didn't notice. She said she just got up and left. Edit. Allow me to add a bit more clarity to what I have said, since some people seem to have taken it a bit wrong. I'm not condemning cocaine use or any drug use really. If you choose to use any drug, that is your prerogative. People do drugs. People have always done them and always will, and there's nothing wrong with that. I just don't particularly enjoy being around any drug use outside the ones I'm commonly exposed to: alcohol, weed, nicotine. It was at a college bar when I saw some people having a shouting argument. One of them stormed outside and said something along the lines of "call up, name, and tell him to come here." The first thing I thought was that it sounded like he was gathering a crew to retaliate against the person he was arguing with. Told my friends we should go to another bar, and we did. About an hour later, there was a shootout in front of that bar. If I remember correctly, no one actually died. But it was scary as fuck. When I was online dating, I went out to meet someone at a bar. He texted me when he got there and told me what he was wearing and where he was sitting. So I went in, saw him from a distance, and realized that he was nothing like how he presented himself on his profile. Probably 50 pounds heavier and 5 inches shorter in real life. He hadn't seen me, so I turned around and left. I just couldn't do it. I had been on so many awful, disappointing dates at that point, and I couldn't sit through another one. I still feel really bad about it. Man in the real guy comes out of the bathroom, notices it's weird there's a short dude wearing what he is, and sits down to wait for you. He's always been a little insecure about being tall and handsome, cause he's really shy and sensitive. After an hour or so he figures out you aren't coming, and slumps down in sadness. The short guy comes over offering sympathy. Your date looks up and sees a kindness there and reaches out, open for something new. You created a beautiful relationship, my friend. 24th birthday party of a friend when he and 2 of his best buddies were having a heated debate over which SpongeBob episode to watch next. Girl asks me to go to her party with her. We walk in and somebody is doing lines on the top of a piano. That was my first oh shit moment. We walk towards another area of the house where the kegs are. We are in a hallway and a door swings open. A girl is naked and on all fours, and it looks like a bunch of dudes are running a train on her. After about 5 minutes later, my friend was ready to leave. I've never felt so out of place in my life. Sounds like a great party. My wife and I on our nightly walk around our neighborhood with our dog when a guy busts out his front door, flailing a katana around, and screams, "I'm gonna FCKING kill you bro." We couldn't tell if it wasn't directed at us, but it was in our general direction. Yeah, we picked up the pace and called the cops. As soon as someone in the same room starts raising their voice in a heated way. Fuck those vibes. The guys at work all wanted to go across town to the college bar after work for shits, giggles, but mainly in the hopes of fugging a college girl. Creepy as fuck since we're all over 40, so I hit the gym instead. Good call. Go to tone up to get a college girl at your age. When I was a teenager there was an abandoned mental hospital at the edge of town that we'd go fug around in. It was a known party spot, but people mostly only hung out on the roof because the inside of the building was always pitch black. So one day, we outfit ourselves with flashlights and go exploring through the older parts of the building. We had done this before, but the place was huge and we hadn't seen all of it. The first red flag was a room filled entirely with children's bowling shoes. And then, in the shadows of the empty indoor swimming pool, someone had arranged garbage to look like a broken body. The final straw was finding a room with stained mattresses, a crack pipe, and graffiti covering the walls that said "no no no" all over. It was like the beginning of a bad horror movie. Needless to say, I haven't been back. I had one just this morning. I started working somewhere last November. In April, they had me split my hours between tasks I was hired for and stuff outside the description. In June, they cut my hours in half. In July, I was away on my honeymoon when they emailed to say I was being laid off. I was supposed to be back at work on Monday, and they laid me off Friday evening. So I got a new job, and today I went to return their key and collect my personals. The boss asked if I'd be available for substitute shifts in the future. No. Recently got involved with a 40-year-old woman. I'm a 25-year-old male. I just wanted to bang a cougar, but it soon became apparent her intentions were very different. Maternal, long-term etc. There was also a jealous ex-boyfriend involved who threatened to kill me. I decided I didn't need that shit in my life, so that was my fuck it, I'm outta here moment. My general manager walked out in the middle of his shift. The least experienced manager, who at that point wasn't even a manager yet, he was still in training, became de facto GM and did not know what he was doing. I put in my 2 weeks and left the next day. In high school I once walked into the bathroom on two dudes giving each other handies. I left quicker than I entered. I had to piss badly, but I held it in for 3 hours until school was over.